that nigga, he don't care about you, yeah. Girl, move on. He can't treat you like I do, my money too long. I got homies for your friends and we can group on. We are early, hit our shot like Curry. Bitch, I wanna shoot like hoops while I'm riding in the coupe. I got what you want, it ain't nothing but a loop. Don't listen to friends, they don't know what's best for you. I want you, yeah, that I wanna shoot like hoops while I'm riding in the coupe. I got what you want, it ain't nothing but a loop. Don't listen to friends, they don't know what's best for you. I want you, yeah, I wanna shoot, yeah. What's the move with you? Where you move it? I'm sticking like some glue with you. Got you doing all the things he never do with you. Got the smile and the vibe is something new with you. We could take a jet back, I done set back, counting cash in the bumblebee, a yellow drop vet. I've been doing a lot of shit that they never tried yet. Hey, your ice real frozen, you might get frostbite, yeah. I just wanna do the dash. I'ma always put you first, never put you last. Way you shake that ass make me wanna throw some cash. Girl, you way too bad, throw that nigga in the trash. You know I'm gon' shoot like hoops while I'm riding in the coupe. I got what you want, it ain't nothing but a loop. Don't listen to friends, they don't know what's best for you. I want you, yeah, that I wanna shoot like hoops while I'm riding in the coupe. I got what you want, it ain't nothing but a loop.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ango Show. We are live. It is Tuesday, October 1st, 2024. And yes, it is a new month, new day. You guys already know the drill. Today, we are talking about Raw from last night. An exceptional episode of WWE Raw last night. Definitely the most perfect way to end WWE Raw prior to going to WWE Bad Blood, which is obviously very exciting. I'm glad you guys are all joining me today. YouTube has been acting a little bit funky, which I'm not sure why, but it is what it is. It is what it is. The show goes on. Regardless if the stream gets pushed out or not, you know we'll have the highlights for you guys on the More Ango channel as well. Hopefully you guys are all doing good. Shout out to everybody who's joining us in the chat today. With that being said, just a couple quick things to get over really quickly, and then we will begin because we do have some other topics aside from WWE Raw as well. Just a quick reminder, if you guys want your questions or comments read on the stream, yesterday was massive. Tons and tons of great super chats yesterday. You guys know it's all about having the most interactive show. So whenever we get super chats, we're going to answer them. It's guaranteed to get answered. However, I do get interrupted by super chats that are $5 or more, and that's because super chats that are $5 or more activate TTS. So you guys will see that it's going to interrupt me, and then I will be forced to answer your guys' questions. I always answer questions from members. I always answer questions for people that are new members and super chats. So if you guys want to support the show, that is the best way to do so. New month, new goals. You guys already know the drill. But most importantly, if you guys haven't clicked like on the stream, that is the easiest way to support the show, and it is completely free. It helps the YouTube algorithm it tells the YouTube algorithm when you guys like and share my stream that you guys are a loyal follower of the Ango Show, and that is absolutely important. It's instrumental in the growth. The growth is coming. We are growing every single day, new subscribers every single day across both channels, so I definitely appreciate that. With that being said, I just want to give a shout out to Todd Crow and Laws. I see them both in the chat. Justin Kennington as well, so shout out to you guys. Chester's here, Trey's here. I love seeing the same names every single day. It is definitely appreciated. It means a lot when I see that you guys are extremely loyal to coming to the show. And as always, what we are trying to do, and let me explain this for everybody who doesn't know the plan. Eventually, the Ango Show is going to be a live show every single day, including weekends. At some point, this will happen. But the big thing is, there is a huge focus for me in terms of long-form content and open conversational content. And eventually, we'll be doing interviews. I already have a couple different pro wrestlers from the major companies reaching out to be part of the show. So eventually, you guys will see guests from time to time. Also, later this year, once it's fully implemented, we will be doing a call-in system as well, so that way I'll be able to take your calls. Nobody's going to do it like us. That is a promise. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about WWE Raw. last night's episode was a very, very, very good episode of WWE Raw. And I genuinely believe that WWE Raw, it was the last 3-hour episode of Raw for the year. When they go to Netflix, that might change again. But for the rest of the year, the show is going to 2 years. And what's intriguing to me is how WWE will be able to follow up going to 2 hours, because in 3 hours, it has become such an easy watch under the Paul Levesque era of WWE creative. Yesterday, I'm telling you guys, the storylines were just off the chain. The matches were great. A lot of great content. And that's one of the things, when it goes down to 2 hours, I'm very intrigued to see how Triple H and the WWE will produce this show. Because one of the things about WWE that has become such a big deal for me is that they figured out how to do a 3-hour episode every single week, where there is just so much content and so much substance where you might not get that in 2 hours. So next week is going to be very different from this week. But of course, there is a lot of talk about Monday nights possibly being, moved, like Raw being moved off of Monday nights. There's a lot of stuff, and we'll get to that in future content. But with that being said, let's talk about Raw and how it started. And this is where I was just actually really shocked, to be honest with you guys, because the episode of Raw started with Jey Uso. There's a new Intercontinental Championship. So for those who didn't know, WWE did add the color blue to the Intercontinental Championship belt, which I personally thought was a great decision. It reminds me a lot of the older Intercontinental Championship belt that Umaga once held. Jey Uso comes out to celebrate. Just a really cool moment. I thought Jey Uso did. This guy, he's got it, man. This guy, he comes out. He gets the reaction. He comes out through the crowd. Just a really, really good way to kick off the show. Obviously, he beat Braun Breaker last week. But what was really, really cool about this segment was that Jey Uso was interrupted by Braun Breaker. Now, if you guys watched Raw last week, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You guys know that Braun Breaker and Jey Uso had a great match, but Braun Breaker has been a heel. He's been a bad guy, and WWE is teasing a babyface turn. And what was really interesting is that Braun Breaker, when he interrupted Jey Uso, he didn't talk trash. He didn't have some weird dickhead mentality. He wasn't being a bad guy. He wasn't being villainous. Instead, he shook his hand and he gave him praise. And what I thought was really interesting was Jey Uso, instead of being a dumb baby face, like he was kind of a smart baby face, he kind of warmed the crowd up for a baby face reaction for Braun Breaker, which I thought was interesting. Jey Uso told him when he was walking out, "Hey, we got some dogs here in Indianapolis," and that's when they were doing the Braun Breaker, rough chant or whatever. So I just thought this was a great way to open up WWE Raw. Jey Uso. Some people don't like his promo skills or anything like that, but he's figured out how to be a singles guy. This is very interesting. It's his first singles belt. And I'm really intrigued to see what they do with him moving forward, because this was a guy who was a tag team wrestler. And we really don't know what to expect there.
Seth Malik super chatted $11.17. The Karrion Kross promo is quite interesting, but I don't know if he's going to separate from Up and go into single run and be built like an NXT.
Great. So we just got a $10 super chat. First super chat activated, the TTS, came from Seth Malik. This is interesting. The Karrion Kross promo, Karrion Kross is, he's lurking in the background. As you guys saw with Karrion Kross on WWE Raw, and we'll talk a little bit about it in just a little bit. But Karrion Kross, he's essentially gotten the Miz to turn on R-Truth. There was a really, really big moment between Xavier Woods beating Rey Mysterio, which we'll talk about. But there was a backstage segment as well where Karrion Kross was lurking around backstage. So this is WWE implementing those Easter eggs. Seifa, what I will say is this: I think Karrion Kross, as much as I like the Final Testament, the Final Testament or whatever, like, I think Karrion Kross should be solo with Scarlett. I don't think he needs a group, to be honest with you. I don't feel like AOP is gaining a lot of traction, and it's weird because I obviously, you guys know on this channel, I have a little bit of a bias. I obviously brought in AOP onto the channel. at one point. I did an interview with them when they were fired from WWE. Rezar is obviously an Albanian. He's like the first ever Albanian performer in the WWE. So obviously I have a little bit of bias towards AOP just based on the relationship that I've had with them. And I've been very adamant about that. I like those guys. I want to see the Albanian Psycho. I want to see him dominate as a tag team. You know, I want to see Akam and Rezar go and do big things. I don't know if they all need to be together as the final testament. The thing about Karrion Kross is that his character work is so incredible and his wrestling skills are really good. But the problem is when you are being a leader of the faction and you got other people doing the dirty work for you, it just seems like WWE has kind of found themselves in a situation where people may not understand or may not remember how legitimate of a badass Karrion Kross is. Also, Karrion Kross was somebody who I met in Las Vegas during StarCast, and just the experience that I had with Karrion Kross, like on a personal level, there was a lot of respect for him. Just kind of the way he's navigated through his career. Once he got to WWE, it was really cool to see that there's, you know, literally since day one, since the Drew McIntyre feud, since he's returned, there's been some really cool stuff there for his character. Even when he loses, it still has meaning. He's one of the few guys on the roster where even if he loses, the matches and everything still make sense and they still have meaning and there's still like a lot of importance to it. So I like Karrion Kross. I don't know if he's going to separate from AOP, but what I will say is this. I feel like if they book him like they did with NXT, there will be a lot of success there. And maybe it would be best for AOP and Karrion Kross to leave each other alone. And look, put Paul Ellering back with AOP. I think that would be the right move. Definitely the right move. And also, I would go as far as saying, you know, Scarlett, Karrion Kross, maybe move them to a different brand. If you want to break them up, do it after the draft. So you don't have to have like this really over convoluted storyline of them breaking up, because then you don't really want to see AOP break up with Karrion Kross and then attack him and stuff. It really wouldn't make sense considering the storyline of how he brought them back. Seifa, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. After the Jey Uso segment with Braun Breaker, we did get Rey Mysterio versus Xavier Woods. I'm super in love with this storyline. It's actually become a really fun storyline to watch. But Xavier Woods, you know, he's been in the slump. He's been frustrated. He's been upset. He's been bothered. There's just a lot of stuff happening here. And one of the things that I absolutely love about this is that Xavier Woods has this match with Rey Mysterio, and he unmasked Rey Mysterio, which is a huge no-no. And that's a very, very, very big heelish way to win a match. But keep in mind, technically, Xavier Woods has not turned into a bad guy yet. They've just been slowly teasing it, and it's making everybody think, okay, well, is he going to be a bad guy? Is he not going to be a bad guy? Whatever it may be. He took advantage of Rey Mysterio. And when he did this, you know, the mask fully comes off. You see Rey's face for a second. He does the schoolboy roll up and he gets the win and he pins Rey Mysterio, which is obviously a very big, very, very big, very big way to do it, right? With that being said, too, one thing that you got to pay attention to is that Xavier Woods is somebody who naturally comes out to big reactions. Him and Kofi get big reactions. Now we're starting to see that this turn that has slowly been happening, all of these little teases, WWE has managed to basically get the crowd to turn on him. It is going to be very interesting to see what the next step of the storyline is, because this is like one of those things, guys. I'm gonna tell you, like, this is borderline risky. The New Day are top merch sellers. They're the biggest. Like, who knows if the whole group will turn heel? Who knows if it's just Xavier Woods? Even what's really strange is, like, I'm starting to get the impression that the New Day will actually turn heel altogether, because Kofi Kingston later on reveals that he got Xavier Woods a Intercontinental Championship match for next week with Jey Uso. And, you know, why would Kofi do that for a guy who is becoming a villain? I'm starting to think that maybe Kofi will also become a villain, and that's going to be the biggest swerve of them all. I think we're seeing more of the frustration from Xavier Woods. I think Xavier Woods turning heel is going to inevitably make Kofi Kingston heel, which could be really, really good. We have Lyra Valkyria versus Zoe Stark. Singles match, not bad. I mean, it is what it is. Zoe Stark is extremely underrated. She ends up beating Lyra Valkyria. We do end up getting Katana Chance and Kaden Carter making the save post-match. Pure Fusion Collective, like, there's just something about this that's not necessarily screaming importance to me, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, it's just like a solid match. It's cool. It's furthering a storyline, but it just, it's not, when we talk about how great and exciting Raw is, this is probably the least exciting for me, but that's just because something is not clicking for me personally. I like Zoe Stark. I like Pure Fusion Collective. I don't know if it's the brand or like the presentation of the group. I'm not sure what it is. I can't really pinpoint what it is. Maybe the name to me is just very unserious. I don't know. I feel like that seems to be the common opinion that I've had, throughout the last few weeks. But it does appear to me that like something is here. It's just a matter of whether or not they can get people to react. And it's okay. Sometimes it's a slow burn, but right now it's just not clicking for me. Lyra Valkyria, great NXT call up. I'm glad to see, that they got her, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that could be done there. Look, man, a lot of great stuff. R-Truth is back on Raw. R-Truth and The Miz, they got a tag team match against AOP. I feel like I'm skipping something, but it's okay because I'll look at my notes again. Look, The Miz turns on R-Truth. He does the hot tag, and, they end up losing, right? They're donezo. AOP, I want to see them go. And look, WWE's got a tag team division that's sick, but we got to see more and more and more for this tag team division. That's what it comes down to. The Miz turning on R-Truth was nice. It paid off, obviously, because The Miz and Karrion Kross have been having a slow burn storyline as well. So a lot of slow burn developing in the mid-card storylines, which is huge. And I'm excited about that. I think that's a good thing for WWE Raw. Just having that just having that R-Truth tag team match, I'm excited about this. R-Truth got turned on. He's a great babyface. The Miz turned heel. What is the plan for The Miz after? I have a very strong feeling they're going to put Miz back in the Intercontinental title picture because that's what they typically do. But obviously we will see. Who knows? We got the LWO versus the Judgment Day. I feel like that's what I was skipping. But basically, it's a fun tag team match, honestly. The Judgment Day defeated LWO. Liv Morgan comes in and gets involved. She basically pushed Joaquin Wilde off the top rope. Something really strange about this, though. When the Judgment Day made their entrance, and I don't know if you guys saw this, but when the Judgment Day when they made their entrance, for some reason, it looked like Liv Morgan was flirting with JD McDonough. And I don't know if this is WWE adding more layers to their story. But I said this before. I said this a long time ago, guys. I said Dominic Mysterio chose Liv over Rhea, but this guy is going to get screwed. He's going to be loveless. He's going to have... He burned Rhea Ripley so that way he can have Liv Morgan's love. And I just have a very strong feeling my prediction will be right in the sense that Dominic will be with a broken heart. Fun tag team match. The Judgment Day defeated the LWO. I love seeing the LWO get on TV more and more and more. All this really did, though, was just like help. It just helped the Judgment Day look strong. That's really what it is. Obviously, at Bad Blood, we're going to see a lot more with Dominic Mysterio going into the Shark Cage. We already got a little bit of those teasers on yesterday's Raw as well, so that's pretty good. Love the fact that they're building the heels. It's all about the heels standing tall. I do have a very strong feeling, and we'll talk about this on the Bad Blood prediction show, but I have a very strong feeling the baby faces are going to be looking really good at Bad Blood throughout the entire pay-per-view. Really loving the way that they're telling the storyline. It's good stuff. There's good layers. There's good developments every single week. We're waiting for the payoff. And until we get to the payoff, guys, I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. Once we get to the payoff, it's like, okay, what's next for the Judgment Day? And then that's where I put the big question mark, obviously. We did get a pre-tape video as well. Sheamus is challenging Pete Dunne to a good old-fashioned Donnybrook match. I think this is obviously going to be a massive, massive match for WWE Raw post Bad Blood. WWE has figured this out, guys. If you haven't figured this out, if you haven't heard me say this before, WWE knows, hey, we're going to do 5 or 6 matches on a pay-per-view, but we want you to watch our TV show. So we're going to put some really big storylines and some really big matches on the following week. I think this is a good example of that. Makes WWE Raw much more valuable to watch. And then, of course, you know, Pete Dunne and Sheamus, we know these guys are going to go out there and have a banger, so it's a really good thing. We get a singles match between Kofi Kingston versus Chad Gable. Chad Gable ends up winning. This is good stuff. I'm excited about this. It's fun. It's a good match. Woods basically grabs, I don't know if it was Chad Gable's ankle. I didn't write it down, but I know he grabbed one of the ankles ringside. He was trying to help Kofi Kingston. Kofi Kingston slightly confused. I love this, guys. I love this. Again, it's furthering the story of Xavier Woods and Kofi. I would have really, really loved to see more and more follow through for Chad Gable and American Made, but I don't know what their plan is either. It seems like there's just a lot of big time acts in the mid card. I don't know what they're going to do or who's going to go to the main event scene, but that is something I'm paying attention to. Sami Zayn and Gunther officially confirmed. Gunther beats down Sami Zayn, and he comes out and he basically says that he accepts the the challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship. So he accepts. That's cool. I'm excited about that. Also on WWE Raw, we got a new YS6 promo video QR code. It's obviously a warning. However, it did look like Alexa Bliss is returning. So I don't know if you guys saw that. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I have a very strong feeling Alexa Bliss is returning. And I've been saying this every week. It seems like they're making those teases. Even though WWE sources are saying that Alexa Bliss isn't ready to return, I don't believe that for a second, because WWE is putting those Easter eggs, and Alexa Bliss returning would obviously be a big deal. I want to take a look at the chat really quick as we move on. I see a lot of people are chiming in. Trey says, I don't think we see Bliss until the right time. Well, obviously, that's a very obvious comment, but it is the truth, though. There has to be a right time for her to come into the mix, because if you are the WWE and you're having Alexa Bliss come in, you got to do it at a point where it makes sense for her to be on TV, because we don't necessarily know if she's going to be on TV as the leader of the Wyatt Six or as just a member of the Wyatt Six. We don't know what her character is going to be like, but in that video, it looked like it was her. So I'm going to just tell you guys like this. If it's Alexa Bliss, like for sure, it's a great move. Great move for her to be part of the Wyatt Six. I feel like they're just getting their feet wet with the group, so I love it. WWE announced that Ilya Dragunov will be out for 6 to 9 months with a torn ACL. I know what that feels like. He had a great match with Gunther at the house show this past weekend in Columbus, Georgia, and he tore his ACL. So, unfortunately, if you guys were excited about Ilya Dragunov, like I was, he's going to be gone for 8 to 9 months. Hopefully sooner, but basically for 8 to 9 months, he might make it back in time for WrestleMania. And that's a very big question mark. We don't necessarily know just yet. So that is somewhat unfortunate. I already talked about the Awesome Truth versus Authors of Pain. The Miz turned on him, and yeah, we talked about that. The best match ever, literally the greatest freaking way to end the show. Bronson Reed versus Braun Strowman. Last monster standing. I wish I mean, like, guys, it's what I predicted. I predicted this stuff, and like, Yeah, just incredible. Just incredible, incredible, incredible. Incredible match. The ring collapse, all the spots that these guys had, just like an instant classic match. Braun Strowman, when he wins this match, you know, I didn't expect him to win. I was actually thinking maybe a double count out. You got security guards everywhere. You got bodies going everywhere. You got walls breaking. But they did the ring collapse, which they don't do it as often, right? So then they have Seth Rollins actually come out and hit a curb stomp on Bronson Reed. So this is like the cool thing for me as a fan of like good old fashioned storytelling. WWE back in the day used to insult your intelligence. Now they're making it very clear to you guys that they don't forget about shit. Seth Rollins comes out. Seth Rollins delivers that curb stomp to Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed's the reason why Seth Rollins was written off TV. So for me, I really, really loved how they did this segment. But also, too, I just want to say this because I thought this part was important. Braun Strowman winning is hopefully a sign that Braun Strowman could elevate up to the World Heavyweight Championship because Gunther will need somebody after Sami Zayn. Maybe this would be the right way to go about it. It could be a fun feud as well. Gunther is a great wrestler. He does a great job with the big guys. Braun Strowman is constantly showing us that he's so much better these days. I just think that is absolutely incredible. And what's really cool is Seth Rollins going after Bronson Reed immediately makes Bronson Reed feel way more important. So I was genuinely impressed with this way to end WWE Raw. With that being said, I see a lot of you guys talking about NXT in the chat. And yes, we will talk about NXT because tonight's episode of NXT is set to be a banger. I have talked to people inside. I've talked to people, guys. I'm telling you right now, tonight's NXT is not one you want to miss. I will tell you guys that much. There are plenty of things being surprised, planned, a lot of big expectations for this show. It's on the CW network. I've been told that NXT is getting completely revamped. This is just some like really cool stuff. I talked a little bit about it in some videos before, but I see that you guys are excited for NXT, and I will tell you guys, you should be. With that being said, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Now that the first half of the show is over, we talked about Raw. We got some stuff to talk about. We are going to talk about NXT. We are going to talk about all of these different things. I see y'all talking about Ricky Starks. I'm going to talk about Ricky Starks and NXT. So trust me, you're not going to want to go away. We're just going to take a minute break. I'm going to go grab a water, and we will begin with the second half momentarily. And we're back. Welcome back to the Ango Show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for joining me. Okay, so we are going to talk NXT. We're going to talk about some AEW news as well. There's some things floating around. Lots to discuss. Did I miss a super chat? Or maybe I missed a tip. Okay, let me check. The tips don't pop up unless I refresh the website. Let me just look at that really quick. I feel like I saw an alert somewhere. Let's see. A $4.20 tip. Thank you. That came from Jafar. Thank you, Jafar. Jafar says, what is the likelihood that we get some debuts on NXT tonight? So it's a really interesting question. The question that came in through the tip was, what, like, basically for surprise debuts, what do you think we get as a surprise debut for NXT tonight on the CW? There's obviously been a lot of rumors, guys. There's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of things that people have been talking about when it comes to NXT on the CW. We know Stephanie Vicker showed up on Satellite last week on NXT. I do think it is very possible that we get Stephanie Vicker going face-to-face with Julia. I do believe Julia will be crowned the new NXT Women's Champion on tonight's episode of NXT on the CW, which would be a great way to kick off the show. We do know that is the match that is scheduled to open the show. So I do expect, Jafar, to answer your question, I think I think we get Stephanie Vicker, and I do think we get Delta. I think we get Delta Brady as well. I think WWE is going to super stack the show with debuts. I see a lot of people in the chat asking about Ricky Starks showing up in NXT. And there's a lot of confusion here with Ricky Starks in NXT. There's a lot of questions about Ricky Starks in NXT. There's a lot of people who are wondering if Ricky Starks will be coming to NXT. And listen, I'm going to tell you guys this. The Ricky Starks situation is really crazy because about 3 weeks ago, there was a report that came out that Ricky Starks was a free agent and that he was out of contract with AEW. Tony Khan has not put him on TV. Tony Khan has not put him on Collision, Dynamite, Rampage. Then there's obviously pictures floating around with, with Ricky Starks and WWE talent, Jade Cargill, Cody Rhodes, some other people from the Nightmare Factory. So a lot of people were wondering, okay, is this a possibility that maybe Ricky Starks comes to WWE? Then there's been rumors that Ricky Starks is trying to go to WWE. Then what becomes even a little bit more interesting here, guys, and this is where I get a little bit confused. Just a week ago or so, there was a report that came out that Ricky Starks was not actually a free agent and he was still under contract with AEW. This is leading people to believe that Ricky Starks has asked for his way out of AEW. I don't have confirmation on that. There's nothing that's been suggested to me that AEW has granted Ricky Starks out of his contract, okay? However, I will say this. If Ricky Starks is out of his contract, and that report is true, that Ricky Starks has been out of his contract for about a month now, and the reason why he hasn't appeared on TV or anything like that is because he's showing up in NXT. I mean, it makes sense for Ricky Starks to be at NXT. And it would make more sense for Ricky Starks to show up and debut on NXT as it goes off the air. Because what's really, really interesting here, the main event is likely going to be Trick Williams versus Ethan Page. And with Ethan Page versus Trick Williams, CM Punk is the special guest referee. I mean, it sounds very likely that the show is going to end with a bang. WWE is notorious on the NXT brand for having things happen after the copyright logo. There would never be a better opportunity than to have Ricky Starks debut right then and there. It would immediately make him feel like a big deal. And if he comes in as a babyface or a heel, I think he could do both incredibly well. But one of the biggest things, too, that people need to understand is that Nobody really understands the contract situation with Ricky. Nobody knows if he actually wants to be in WWE or not. That's the thing. There's been a lot of talk about Ricky Starks coming to WWE. There's been a lot of talks about him getting out of AEW, but nobody really knows. There's been so much talk about, okay, is he signed? Is he not signed? I don't know if he's signed. But it does sound more likely that Ricky Starks would go to NXT versus the main roster. It would make a lot more sense for Ricky Starks to go and get immediately elevated to the world title picture, because that's one of the biggest weaknesses of NXT so far. The NXT mid-card is stacked, the NXT tag team division is stacked, the NXT women's division and the mid-card women's division, like, it's all stacked, but the one area where they're actually kind of struggling, and maybe not even struggling, it's just maybe a missed opportunity, is having somebody that belongs at the top for the world title. And if you're the WWE and Ricky Starks is in fact a free agent and he is in fact signed to WWE NXT, you bring him there, you have him hold it down with Trick Williams for the next 6-7 months, and then Ricky Starks would then get called up to the main roster. And, you know, Shawn Michaels has been very adamant. This is a new look for NXT. NXT is getting a makeover. NXT is going to look different. NXT is going to have a different physical appearance than what they've had before. The NXT brand is being reshaped. So if you want to show people it's a new era, tonight is the night you do it. It's a new TV network, which means new television partners, which means you got to appease new different executives. You got to start making these people happy, because they're not the same people from USA Network, right? So the way to do that is by having a all hands on deck type of show. And the way that you do an all hands on deck type of show is by immediately having the big time debuts. I think Ricky Starks does appear in NXT. I 1000% believe it happens. I don't know if it happens tonight, but I'm just saying I wouldn't be shocked if it did. And I think that's a really good thing. Like, I think that's a really good thing for WWE to have, where these debuts aren't necessarily getting spoiled, because nobody anticipated Ethan Page. Nobody knew that Ethan Page was let out of his contract. And listen, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this respectfully, but AEW is a very, very, very interesting company, because we thought they were going to be the alternative. They're clearly not the alternative. Tony Khan talks often about WWE's pettiness, and then we see that Tony Khan just added injury time to Rey Fenix. Now you have to wonder, is it a possibility in the slightest that Tony Khan may have added injury time to Ricky Starks as well? Some people are under the belief that Tony Khan's going to do it to, they think he's going to do it to Miro. They think he's going to do it to Malachi Black from preventing people going to NXT. But just keep in mind, WWE did not do this to Bobby Lashley, and we all know Bobby Lashley is going to AEW. So it's a very, very, very interesting situation here. I do think, going back to Jafar's tip, right? Like, that question that he asked, like, with surprises, yeah, I expect them at this point. I fully expect, but I don't think it's just going to be Julia, Stephanie Vicker, and Delta Brady. I just don't think that's the case. Some people in the chat are asking, what about Miro? Anthony Oderwald says Miro versus Obafemi. Look, maybe that's a possibility. Maybe Miro goes back to NXT. I don't know. I just feel like Miro would be better off on the main roster. But my point that I'm making is that there is definitely some surprises planned for NXT. Ricky Starks showing up in NXT would be absolutely massive. And if I was Tony Khan and Ricky Starks didn't want to be there, and I say this all the time, guys, look, if people don't want to be there, don't let them be there. Don't hold them captive. Do not. I don't know how many times I got to say this, but if I was running AEW and I have people that do not want to be in my company, why would I keep them in my company? Let them go to the competitor. Let them go to the competitor. You're not doing anything with them. You're not putting them on TV. There is plenty of talent in AEW who are not being utilized right now. So I understand the speculation for sure. Also, one other thing that you got to keep in mind is there is that partnership with TNA. Can we see somebody from TNA show up tonight? I think that is a very big possibility as well. So that is something to look forward to as well. But yeah, Ricky Starks in NXT is an interesting question. I see you guys all popping off on the chat about it. I think it is very, very possible. But there's just too much confusion surrounding his contract. And maybe Tony Khan has let him out. Well, who knows? Who knows? But I'm definitely intrigued to see what happens there. We did get another super chat from Adam Myron for $2. He says, do you think WWE will bring in Rob Riggle? I don't know who that is, so let me just do a quick Google search, because that name does not... Oh, Rob Riggle, the comedian. Why would they bring him in, though? What would be the purpose of him coming in? What would he be brought in for? I guess that's like an interesting question. I know as soon as I Googled and I saw his face, I'm like, I know this guy. 21 Jump Street and pretty much every other shit-faced comedy. I don't know why he would be in the WWE. I don't know if he would be good in the WWE. I don't know. Honestly, the only thing I know about this guy is I remember him from like a whole bunch of bullshit-ass comedies. David Decker is in the chat saying commentary. No. No, I'm sorry, guys, but they got Joe Tessitore. He's killing it in commentary. WWE's commentary teams are set. So I'm good. Yeah, commentary is good the way it is. Adam, I appreciate the super chat, though. Thank you so much. Guys, don't forget, if you want to drop a super chat, $5 or more activates TTS, which means I'll be cut off and interrupted by a voice. All super chats get read on the stream. And if you guys aren't a member on the channel, you could definitely become a member. Definitely an interesting question, though, that's for sure. I didn't know Rob Riggle was even considered for WWE? Is that I don't know. I'm not too fond of that. I'm not sure if I'm fond of that, and I'm not sure if that's realistic. But yeah, let's talk. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about an AEW return that is set to happen imminently, one that is desperately needed. And I swear to God, guys, this is going to be a very interesting thing to watch and see unfold, because quite frankly, I don't know how much trust I have with AEW here. But Wrestle Purists Worldwide, you guys might have seen Wrestle Purists. They're known for aggregating content on Twitter and online and on YouTube. They do podcasts and stuff like that. Ibu from Wrestle Purist came out and has reported that Jay White is set to return to AEW imminently, and as of this time, no other details were given. And I just want to talk about Jay White for a second. I want to talk about Jay White for a very big reason because, well, let's just call it what it is. Jay White came into AEW, and I got scolded. I went viral, over 1 million plus views, talking about how Jay White should have signed with WWE. I fantasy booked an entire thing about Jay White going to WWE and debuting at WrestleMania and having a feud with Seth Rollins. And what was really interesting to me was the way that the internet, you know, when things go viral, the internet came after me and they're like, this is garbage, this is bullshit. AEW is going to make Jay White the greatest. And Jay White has obviously not even been remotely close to that. Jay White has been underbooked and undervalued in AEW. You know, all the stuff between him and the Gun Club is cool, but it's not like that shouldn't stop him from becoming a top singles guy in the company, which has become very, very interesting to me because I feel like AEW should be treating Jay White at the top of the card. You know, you look at Bryan Danielson feuding with Jon Moxley, but why not have Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, Hangman, Swerve, Jay White, Okada, you know, Kenny Omega, obviously he's hurt, but like those are your top guys. Why is it that Jay White doesn't feel like a top guy in AEW? And why does it that people get so offended when I say that AEW has not booked him the way he should be booked? And it's a very strange situation because I feel like when Jay White came into AEW, he was supposed to be this big deal. And it was very, very noticeable very quickly that he was not treated as a big top guy. So, you know, I just want to say this, like, I feel like I've 100% been correct. And I could find that tweet that went viral, you know, and I remember when that thing popped off, a lot of people, and I don't forget these people. There was some content creators, you know, there's a whole bunch of faceless bullshit accounts, but there were some content creators out there who thought they can talk some shit, and they're eating their words right now. You know, the reality is that Jay White was a top guy in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Jay White could have gone to TNA and been a top guy. Jay White could have gone to WWE and been one of the top guys. But the reality is Jay White came to AEW and he's not a top guy, and nobody has an excuse for it. Nobody has anything to justify. His booking has been flat. It's been garbage. And then, of course, he's missed time. So now we do got to keep that in mind. He missed time. But Jay White should have been immediately presented as a top guy. And it's so strange to me how, like, Will Ospreay comes into this company and he's viewed as one of the top guys and he's viewed as one of the big deals. Why wasn't that applied to Jay White? And it's so weird because I don't know if Tony Khan understands this, and I don't understand why people disagree here. But let's just call it what it is. Perception is reality. You put people on TV, they get injured, they get off TV, they don't feel like a big deal after a long period of time. So the problem is, before they get off of TV, if they're not really doing anything big and memorable, then people don't really give a shit. But unfortunately, I think AEW, they you know, what is it? They create content for the sickos. That's what they say. It's for the sickos. It's for the hardcore audience. Jay White was literally the person that the hardcore audience was telling me. The hardcore audience, the most hardcore audience of them all, was literally blabbing on Twitter about how this guy would come into AEW and he would be far better in AEW than WWE. And now look, all this time has passed. Tony Khan got more toys to play with. Jay White is an afterthought. Listen, Ibu's report that came out is interesting. I do think that Jay White will show up in AEW probably tomorrow. They're celebrating 5-year anniversary, and that's cool, and I'm excited for them. It's probably going to be a great show, and Jay White should be there. Jay White should be dealing with the most important storyline. Yet Tony Khan announces Okada versus Bryan Danielson for the championship, and Okada is holding the Continental Classic title. It's title versus title. Things are being thrown together, and that's cool. You're going to get some great matches out of it, and I'm excited that those matchups exist. But I'm not excited about people coming in, having a big-time matchup, and then nothing really matters after. And for some reason, if this bothers people, I mean, that sucks for you. It doesn't suck for me. It's easy for me to turn off the TV. It's easy for me to change the channel. And by the way, I'm very adamant about this. If you guys have not watched my content before, if you are watching this for the very first time, if you have never seen me talk about wrestling, let me tell you guys something. I built an entire business talking about wrestling, and I absolutely love it. But part of that means you got to have a work-life balance. And I'm telling you guys, I am not going to watch something that I do not enjoy when I would also like to watch sports and I would like to watch football. I want to watch basketball. I want to go out. I want to enjoy my life too. It's called work-life balance. And sometimes I find it when wrestling sucks and I don't want to watch it, I choose something over pro wrestling every single time. And this is, I think, one of the reasons why people respect me on YouTube, because I am very adamant and very transparent about the fact that if something is not good, then I will not watch it. And if something is very, very good, I will watch it. And I will, look, no matter what, good or bad, I'm going to criticize. I'm going to be open and I'm not going to be biased towards anything. But at the same time, too, we have gotten to a point in pro wrestling where there's too much of it to go around. Way too much is on Monday through Sunday. So at the end of the day, if things are happening on TV and it's just simply not good, and after week after week after week it's not good and I just don't care for it, I will be very adamant to say, listen, I'd rather go watch the Pistons game. I'd rather go watch the Lions game. I'd rather watch Thursday Night Football. I'd rather watch this. I'd rather watch that. I'd rather do this. You only got 24 hours in a day, my friends. The greatest thing you'll ever hear from me is this. Time is everything. Once you lose time, you lose it all. You can lose $100 today but make $250 tomorrow. That 24 hours that just passed, you never get that back. So I like to value my time very, very carefully. And you guys know by following me, that's something I've always been adamant about. It's the reason why I do what I love every single day, because I know how to choose. I know how to use my time wisely. So I definitely do not give my time to a wrestling show if I don't like it, if I lose my interest with it. And that's what's happened. That's what's happened over the last 2 years with AEW. I went to every pay-per-view. I went to all these events. I did all these great things. If it wasn't for AEW, who knows if I would even be here. They are a great company, but at the same time, too, there are things from a television perspective that I don't like. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because when I see Jay White be an incredible talent, and I see all these people that are so incredibly talented, and they're presented as a big deal, but then it just goes away, I cannot invest in people. Start and stop pushes, putting people on Ring of Honor when they should be on the main roster. Like, it's very, very simple. I'm not saying be like WWE. All I'm saying is get better at presenting your stars. There's no reason why I should know this and a billionaire doesn't. And Tony Khan should know this. It's inexcusable. It's absolutely hilarious because a lot of people don't talk about, they talk about cyberbullying, but then they will cyberbully you if you don't have the same opinion on them in pro wrestling. Make it make sense. Jay White's been underutilized. He has not been presented as a big deal. Hopefully that changes. I expect it to happen tomorrow. I like Jay White a lot. Hopefully Tony Khan's not dumb enough to just screw this up, but you never know. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a very interesting stream. It actually went a little bit faster than I thought. But I'm very glad that you all came here. So what we're going to do for a few minutes is I'm just going to look at the chat. I'm going to interact with you guys. If you have super chats, go ahead and drop a super chat. Any super chat that's $5 or more will activate TTS, which will cut me off. Trey Lusato says, speaking of AEW, I got a problem about one thing. They advertised Bryan versus Okada with both of their titles on the line, but Okada's title is at stake for 20 minutes. Yeah, it's because of the Continental Classic, you know, the rules, the 20-minute timer. It's stupid in my opinion. I don't think Okada's going to drop his title, but Okada will lose the match. Basically, all AEW did there was just make it incredibly predictable. Chris says, do you think Athena should be on Dynamite or Collision? I think she should be on both. Absolutely criminal. Athena, formerly known as Ember Moon, arguably one of the best women talents in the industry, is wasting her life away in Ring of Honor. I don't get it. Doesn't make no sense to me. She should be AEW World Champion. She's not. Make it make sense, dude. Make it make sense. She's so incredibly talented, dude. So incredibly talented. Chester says, I would like a WWE PLE back in Detroit. They did SummerSlam in 2023. Yeah, SummerSlam. I was there. I met a lot of viewers. That was really cool. Very fun show. I had a great experience. Floor seats. WWE was incredible. Super thankful about that. They're coming back in December. They're coming back in December for a house show. December 30th. Non-televised. I think that's during Monday Night Raw, though, so I don't know. Hopefully they come back for a PLE, though. MN drops a $1.99 super chat. You should sell a hockey jersey that says Ango. Okay, I'll put that in my notes. Sell a hockey jersey that says Ango. Dude, I want to get custom jerseys. I want to get custom jerseys for sure. Thank you, MN, for the super chat. Appreciate it. David Decker says, do you see the Motor City Machine Guns debuting tonight or next week? I see them debuting tonight. Preferably tonight, but you never know. Maybe WWE saves it for next week. Assad says Mariah May ain't it. I don't agree with that, my friend. I don't agree with that. Mariah May is great. Really good. Humble says, do you see Detroit going to the playoffs? Lions are winning the Super Bowl. The Tigers just made it to the playoffs. The Red Wings are going to make it to the playoffs. And the Detroit Pistons probably won't. Which sucks because I'm a huge Pistons fan. Like, I love watching Pistons games. A lot of people don't know this, but literally, last winter, I had two screens. I had literally wrestling on one and the Pistons game right on the other. But the Tigers just made the playoffs. I'm not a huge baseball guy, but one of my cousins was just at the game. He said there was like 40,000 people at Comerica Park. So they clinched a playoff spot. That's pretty cool. They haven't. I'm not a big baseball guy, but yeah, for sure though. Pistons. I need the Pistons to make it. Pistons got to make this the playoffs. They probably won't, but I'll never give up on them. I'm loyal to the Pistons. Red Wings are pretty sick this year. They'll probably make the playoffs. I think they can make it. Lions are winning the Super Bowl, and when the Lions win the Super Bowl, if I don't hit 100,000 subscribers by then, I'll just give out fucking like 20 World Championship belts. Do you know if WWE is still planning 2 mid-card belts for the women? Yes, that's coming very soon. Any new belts for NXT? That's a possibility. Pistons got to win more than 20 games. Yes, I know. Pistons are a new owner away from the NBA title. All right, you guys are just scolding my Detroit Pistons now. But I get it. I get it. The thing is, basketball's a sick-ass sport, bro. Basketball's a sick-ass sport. And I watch that shit religiously. I got the scores on the phone. I got 2 screens. I pay attention to it. You guys know my partnership with DraftKings. Don't forget about that. Maybe you guys forgot about that. I got that partnership with DraftKings. So, you know, sports betting, if you're going to do it responsibly. Don't lose all your money. That would be ridiculous. But definitely want to throw that out there. Sports betting is kind of fun. But yeah. Now I got people feeling bad for me that I'm a fan of the Pistons. That's wild. All right, that's the perfect way to end the show. It's 1 o'clock. We're going to call it an episode. I appreciate all of you guys coming through. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to talk about everything NXT. I'm going to have a news video dropping momentarily as well because there is more topics being discussed. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming, and I will see y'all later.